Hey, you brought up Eminem before. We haven't talked about this, and I haven't heard what the status is, but a few weeks back, there was a rumor that Melina may be returning to the WWE. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, because I don't know whether it's true or not. I guess where there's smoke, there's fire. I liked working with all three of those guys and girls. It was Joey Matthews, Johnny Nitro was the in back in those days, John Morrison, and Melina. They were great together, had a great fucking gimmick, looked good. I've always enjoyed speaking to Melina. I'm sure anytime I say something good about anything, somebody will come up with a videotape where she's wrestling the Invisible Woman. But I assume since somebody said it and she denied it, that's what everybody has to do until they announce it. So I don't have a problem with them bringing back some of their well-known and full-grown women from the past, especially after some of the. I saw a girl on one of these shows that little darling Dagmar would have towered over her. Look it up. Google her if you don't know. But I'm a fan of Melina's.
I was going to say, do you think she gets an unfair shake from people? Do you think people judge her from the past too much? I always thought she was better in OVW than she was in WWE.
Well, to be honest, I don't know that I've seen more than two or three things of her in WWE. So I'm just going on working with her in OVW and in seeing her at a few independent events here over the last several years. What did she do in the WWE? I've zoned out on that.
Well, it's one of those things where the M&M team.
Well, I mean, after they broke up.
Well, that's what I was going to say, though. M&M were great together, and then, of course, they're like, wow, she's great. Let's separate her from them. And then she just became a singles wrestler. From what I remember hearing, there was backstage heat with her and some of the other people working there. Was that ever anything you encountered in OVW with her?
Not that I recall. I don't, see, that's it. Most of the people in OVW in those days got along with each other. There was occasionally a few times you had to settle somebody down. But, it was more of a team atmosphere. I didn't have any problem ever having her say, well, it doesn't work for me, brother. And the thing is, I concentrated more on her in the package of the team with Johnny and Joey rather than as a wrestler. She wrestled some because that's what she was here to train for. But I thought that they were a main event fucking level deal. Especially at that point when that was the heyday of the Edge and Christian as a team and the Hardys and, so I concentrated more on putting her with them and pushing them. If she was just going out there and doing single matches, and especially if she was getting beat in just a girls match on the card while she's part of my tag team champions, well, that's fucking stupid. But say a lot of people, I'm sure all the young aspiring girl wrestlers in that situation would like to be wrestling, which is where they don't think long term, because it's a whole lot easier to be a main event level attraction and get main event money when you're in a package like that than if you're just another girl on the card. So, which is the same reason why sometimes guys would that have a talent for tag team wrestling and have certain strengths, but don't click as a single, instead of being just a guy on the card, being a really good tag team. Except the problem there becomes now that since Vince poisoned everybody from using tag teams in main events, you can't. Tag teams in the territory days never made main event money like the singles did because you were splitting the fucking check 4 ways instead of 2. A main event payoff between 2 guys, the promoters would still usually, at least they were supposed to, and in some fashion would, give the match the same amount of money, but they would split it between 2 guys. In a tag team match, they'd split it between 4. That's what we main evented the Superdome, the Midnight Express and I did, with Watts and also in the Scaffold. But the Watts show was the match within $6,000 of the record Superdome with Junkyard Dog and Michael Hayes and the Dog Collar. but we didn't get nearly the single payoff that Dog and Hayes did because ours was split 5 ways. Watts, Dog, Eaton, Condrey, and myself. And then, of course, Watts took several more portions, I'm sure, because he was the boss. And, but anyway, nevertheless, that's just a lesson for some talent. If you get a chance to be part of a really good fucking team or unit, and especially for because now that there's so many girls matches, the girl that will stand out will be the one that doesn't wrestle but is capable of being a 21st century manager type and with a fucking team and an integral part of that team or person, single, whatever. That's where you're going to draw money with a woman that may otherwise just be on the card.
What did you think the first time you saw her do that split on the apron?
Loved it. That was, and plus she knew where the camera was too. I mean, that was usually the first 6 months when we get guys or girls in OVW was reminding them when they did something cool, there were people on 3 sides, but the hard camera was on the one that no people were on. So do it toward the camera. But yeah, I mean, they just, they looked like someone from their, go back and, well, nobody can really go back and look at the OVW shows. You'd see the best booked television program in the 21st century of wrestling, according to some people back then. But you can't see it now because they've got it locked up. But M&M looked like they were who they presented themselves to be. They had a good look, young look. They had the fucking music. They had her people. They did the paparazzi thing. They created an entrance. They had good matches that backed it up. Joey was the team captain. John was very athletic back then, even though he was green, but they got to point across. And they talked and looked like somebody. And that's what you try to reward with more. Well, it used to in the old days. But as soon as the comedy writers got a hold of them, they were like, well, let's break them up now that they just know what they're doing. They didn't want to sign Joey to begin with because he didn't have a contract at first. He's the one that put all the ideas, and it was the team captain, put everything together in a cohesive form because Melina and Johnny were both green. And they said, well, we'll bring Melina and Johnny up and put them with somebody else that we've got under contract already. I said, then just start from fucking scratch. Because then you've just changed the whole goddamn deal. So they signed Joey at least. And then they ended up caving his face in not shortly afterwards, as I recall. One of those goofy ladder matches.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, nevertheless, folks,